Michael Carter stands frozen in the doorway of Miller's family restaurant, his face drained of color as he stares at the woman taking orders behind the counter. The billionaire's perfectly tailored suit feels suddenly suffocating as recognition hits him like a physical blow. Sarai Green. His Sarai. The girl who sat next to him in every class from third grade through high school graduation. The girl who helped him with math homework when his parents were too busy building their empire to care. The girl who promised they'd stay best friends forever, no matter what life brought them. She's wearing a stained apron over a worn uniform, her once bright smile now practiced and tired as she serves coffee to truck drivers and construction workers. Her hair is pulled back in a simple ponytail, and there are lines around her eyes that speak of years he knows nothing about. 25 years have passed since he last saw Sarai Green. 25 years since he left for Harvard Business School and she stayed behind to care for her sick mother. 25 years since he stopped returning her phone calls and let their friendship die from neglect. Now she's here, working in a diner in their old hometown, while he owns companies in 12 countries. The guilt hits him so hard he can barely breathe. Before we continue, tell me where you're listening from, and tap subscribe so you never miss a story. Michael built his fortune on the foundation his parents laid, but expanded it through relentless ambition and strategic brilliance. At 43, he controls a tech empire worth $4 billion, with headquarters in New York and satellite offices across the globe. His name appears on Forbes lists, and his opinion shapes markets. He's in town for exactly one day, settling the final details of his parents' estate after their death 6 months ago. The family mansion, the local investments, the charitable foundation, all require his signature before he can return to his real life in Manhattan. The meeting with the estate lawyers finished early, leaving Michael with 2 hours to kill before his private jet could depart. On impulse, he decided to drive through his old neighborhood, past the high school where he'd been valedictorian, past the houses where his childhood friends had lived. He hadn't planned to stop anywhere. He certainly hadn't planned to walk into Miller's family restaurant, the same place where he and Sarah used to split milkshakes after school dances. Sarah Green had been the constant in his teenage years, when everything else felt uncertain. While his parents traveled constantly for business, while boarding school friends came and went, Sarah was always there, patient, loyal, believing in his dreams even when he doubted himself. She was the one who stayed up all night helping him write his Harvard application essay. She was the one who celebrated when he got accepted, even though it meant he'd be leaving her behind. She was the one who promised that distance wouldn't matter, that their friendship was too strong to break. For the first 2 years of college, they kept in touch religiously. Long phone calls every Sunday, letters filled with details about his classes and her job at the local bank. But gradually, Michael's world expanded, while Sarah's seemed to shrink. His friends were senators' children and tech entrepreneurs. His internships led to Wall Street connections and venture capital opportunities. Sarah's letters started mentioning her mother's illness more frequently. Diabetes complications, hospital stays, mounting medical bills. She'd had to drop out of community college to work full-time. She'd had to move back into her childhood home to provide care. Michael's responses became shorter, less frequent. He was busy with his own life, his own future. Sarah's problems felt distant, manageable by someone else. He told himself he'd visit during summer break, but opportunities arose. Internships, networking events, trips to Europe with his new girlfriend. The phone calls stopped. The letters dwindled to birthday cards, then nothing at all. Now, 25 years later, Michael stares at the woman his childhood best friend has become. She moves efficiently between tables, refilling coffee cups and taking orders with the kind of grace that comes from years of practice. She's still beautiful, but it's a different kind of beauty now, worn smooth by experience, strengthened by whatever struggles brought her to this place. A trucker at the counter calls for more coffee, and Sarah responds with a smile that doesn't quite reach her eyes. She's learned to be pleasant to strangers, Michael realizes, because her livelihood depends on tips and repeat customers.
The contrast between her world and his feels obscene. While she's serving coffee for $2 an hour plus tips, he's closing deals worth more than this entire restaurant will earn in a decade. Michael takes a seat at the counter, knowing she'll have to serve him, knowing this conversation is inevitable. His hands shake slightly as he picks up the laminated menu, though he's not reading the words. Sarah approaches with a coffee pot and a professional smile that falters the moment she really looks at his face. "Michael!" The word comes out barely above a whisper, as if she's afraid saying his name might make him disappear. "Hello, Sarah." His voice sounds strange to his own ears, formal and distant when what he wants to say is 1,000 apologies for 25 years of silence. They stare at each other across the counter, separated by wealth and time and all the words they never said. Sarah recovers first, slipping back into her professional demeanor like armor. "Coffee?" she asks, already reaching for a cup. A question hangs between them, loaded with everything they're not saying. Coffee, like it's a normal transaction between strangers. Coffee, like they didn't once know each other's dreams and fears. Coffee, like he abandoned the best friend he ever had. "Yes," Michael says quietly. Black. Sarah pours his coffee with steady hands, but Michael can see the tension in her shoulders, the careful way she's holding herself together. "So," she says, setting the cup down, without looking at him directly, "what brings the famous Michael Carter back to Miller's restaurant?" The words sound casual, but there's an edge underneath them that cuts straight through Michael's guilt to something deeper. She knows who he's become. She's kept track of his success while he forgot she existed.
"I'm here settling my parents' estate," Michael says, the word sounding inadequate even to him. "They passed away earlier this year." Sarah's expression softens slightly. "I heard. I'm sorry for your loss." The kindness in her voice makes his guilt worse somehow. Even now, even after his years of neglect, she's offering him sympathy he doesn't deserve. "Thank you," he says quietly. "I saw the obituary mention their foundation work. You probably knew them better than I did these last few years." It's true, and they both know it. Michael's parents had become pillars of the community after retiring, funding scholarships and supporting local causes. Sarah would have seen them regularly, probably served them coffee in this very restaurant. "They were good people," Sarah says diplomatically, refilling his cup without being asked. "They always asked about you when they came in. Your mother carried pictures of your penthouse apartment on her phone." The image hits Michael like a punch to the chest. His mother showing off photos of his success to their old neighbors while he couldn't be bothered to call her more than once a month. "I should have come home more often," he admits. "Yes," Sarah agrees. "You should have." The honesty of her response surprises him. The old Sarah would have rushed to comfort him, would have made excuses for his absence. This version doesn't offer him easy absolution. A customer at a corner table signals for his check, and Sarah moves away to help him. Michael watches her work, noting the easy way she interacts with the regulars, the genuine warmth she shows to an elderly man who's probably been here for years. When she returns, Michael tries a different approach. "How long have you been working here?" 6 years, Sarah says, wiping down the counter between them. "Since the bank closed." Michael knows about the bank closure. It made national news because of the impact on small communities. What he hadn't thought about was how it affected people like Sarah, people who'd spent their careers in local institutions. "I'm sorry," he says. "That must have been difficult." Sarah looks at him directly for the first time since recognizing him. It was what it was, Michael. People adapt. There's something in her tone that makes him feel like a child being gently scolded. She's not looking for his pity or his apologies. She's simply stating facts about her life with the kind of dignity that comes from surviving things that would have destroyed weaker people. Do you have a family?" he asks, realizing how little he knows about the woman who once knew him better than anyone. "I was married for 12 years. Tom Miller. You remember Tom from our math class? We divorced 3 years ago. No children." I do remember Tom Miller. Quiet, reliable, the kind of guy who would have made Sarah a good husband, the kind of guy Michael never bothered to be. "I'm sorry," he says again, the words feeling increasingly useless. "Stop apologizing," Sarah says with sudden firmness. "It's not what I need from you.
Then what do you need? The question comes out more desperate than he intended. Sarah studies his face for a long moment, as if trying to decide whether he's worth the honesty he's asking for. I needed my best friend 25 years ago when my mother was dying. I needed someone to remember that I existed when the bank failed and I lost my career. I needed someone to care when my marriage fell apart, and I had to start over at 38 years old. Each word hits Michael like a physical blow. She's not being cruel, just truthful about the cost of his absence from her life. But I don't need those things anymore, Sarah continues. I've learned to take care of myself. So what I need now, Michael, is for you to drink your coffee, leave a reasonable tip, and go back to your important life without trying to fix mine. The dismissal is complete and devastating. She's not angry with him. Anger would suggest he still mattered enough to hurt her. Instead, she's simply done with him, the way you're done with a chapter of your life that's already been written and closed. Michael stares into his coffee cup, finally understanding that money can't buy forgiveness, and success can't undo the pain of abandoned friendship. It doesn't have to be this way, he says quietly. Sarah picks up a dish rag and begins cleaning glasses with mechanical precision. Yes, it does, she replies without looking at him. Because this is what happens when you disappear from someone's life for 25 years. You lose the right to pretend you still know them.
The truth of Sarah's words settles over Michael like a weight he can't lift. She's right, of course. He doesn't know her anymore. The girl who shared her lunch with him in second grade, who stayed up all night helping him study for finals, who cried when he got into Harvard because she was proud but also afraid of losing him, that girl grew up without him. The woman standing across from him now has survived challenges he can't imagine, has built strength he never had to develop, has learned to depend only on herself because the people she trusted most disappeared when life got complicated. I think about you sometimes, Michael says quietly, the admission feeling both inadequate and too much. I wonder what happened to you. I wonder if you're happy. Sarah stops cleaning glasses and looks at him with an expression he can't quite read. Do you really want to know what happened to me, Michael? Or do you want the sanitized version that makes you feel better about your choices? The challenge in her voice makes him straighten up. Tell me the real version. Sarah sets down the dish rag and leans against the counter, her voice steady but distant. My mother died 2 years after you stopped calling. Diabetes complications that could have been managed better if we'd had insurance that covered everything she needed. I spent her last months choosing between her medications and keeping the electricity on. Michael feels sick, but Sarah continues without pausing for his reaction. I worked 3 jobs after she died, trying to pay off her medical debt. I met Tom at the grocery store where he was a manager. He was kind to me when kindness was rare, so I married him. We had 12 good years before the bank closure changed everything. She pauses, looking past Michael toward the window where late afternoon light filters through Venetian blinds. Tom couldn't handle watching me struggle again. He couldn't handle being married to someone who went from bank manager to waitress overnight. The divorce was his idea, but I understood. Sometimes love isn't enough when pride gets in the way. Michael wants to say something, anything, but the words feel too small for the story she's telling. I live in a studio apartment above the hardware store now. I work 50 hours a week between this restaurant and cleaning houses on weekends. I'm 43 years old and my biggest luxury is buying name brand coffee instead of store brand. The simple details of her life feel like indictments of his excess. While she's been choosing between coffee brands, he's been buying art that costs more than most people earn in a lifetime. Sarah, I'm not telling you this for pity. I'm telling you because you asked, and because you should know what happens to people when their safety nets disappear. She straightens up, pulling her professional mask back into place as another customer enters the restaurant. Excuse me, she says politely. I have work to do. She moves away to serve the new customer, leaving Michael alone with his coffee and the weight of understanding what his absence cost the person who mattered most to him. His phone buzzes with a text from his assistant, reminding him about his flight. In 2 hours, he'll be back on his private jet, returning to a penthouse apartment that cost more than Sarah will earn in 10 years. The contrast feels obscene now, not because he's ashamed of his success, but because he achieved it at the cost of abandoning someone who deserved better from him. When Sarah returns to his section of the counter, Michael pulls out his wallet.
"What do I owe you?" "$2.50 for the coffee," she says, already reaching for his empty cup. Michael places a $100 bill on the counter. "Keep the change." Sarah looks at the money like it's something dirty. "I told you I don't need your guilt money." "It's not guilt money," Michael lies, though they both know it is. "It's just a tip. It's a tip that's bigger than what I make in a day. It's you trying to fix 25 years of neglect with cash." She picks up the 100 and holds it out to him. "I don't want your money, Michael. I want my dignity intact." The gesture destroys him completely. She'd rather struggle than accept help from someone who abandoned her when she needed him most. Her pride is worth more to her than financial relief, and he finally understands that his money is not only useless here, it's insulting. Michael takes the bill back with shaking hands. "I'm sorry," he whispers. "I know you are, but sorry doesn't change anything. Sorry doesn't give me back the friend I lost when I needed him most." She turns away to serve another customer, and Michael understands that this conversation is over. He leaves exact change for his coffee and walks toward the door on unsteady legs. At the threshold, he turns back one more time. Sarah is laughing at something a regular customer has said. Her face lit up with genuine warmth for someone who isn't him. He realizes that she's built a life here, with people who value her for who she is now, instead of mourning who she used to be. She doesn't need him to rescue her from anything, because she's already rescued herself. The door closes behind him with a soft chime, and Michael walks back to his rental car knowing he's lost something precious that can never be recovered.
Michael sits in his rental car outside Miller's restaurant for 20 minutes, engine running but unable to drive away. Through the windows, he can see Sarah moving between tables, her efficiency born from years of practice and necessity. His phone rings constantly. Business calls, investment decisions that require his immediate attention, meetings that are more important than the emotional reckoning happening in a small-town diner. He ignores them all. Instead, he thinks about the girl who used to sit next to him in calculus, explaining concepts he struggled with despite his perfect grades. Sarah had a way of making complicated things simple, of seeing solutions that others missed. It's a skill that probably serves her well in the service industry, reading customers' needs and anticipating problems before they escalate. Michael drives to his parents' house, letting himself in with the key the estate lawyer gave him. The mansion feels empty and cold, filled with expensive furniture and family photographs that document a life he participated in but never fully lived. In his old bedroom, preserved exactly as he left it for college, Michael finds a shoebox filled with high school memorabilia. Beneath old report cards and graduation programs, he discovers a stack of letters tied with a blue ribbon. Every letter Sarah wrote during his first 2 years at Harvard. He reads them with growing shame and sorrow. Her handwriting starts neat and excited, full of plans for his visits home and dreams about her own future. She writes about starting college, about her part-time job at the bank, and about her mother's proud reaction to his success. Gradually, the tone shifts. Her mother's health problems begin to dominate the letters. Medical appointments, insurance complications, the slow dissolution of her college plans as family obligations take precedence. Michael remembers receiving these letters, remembers reading them quickly between classes and parties and internships. At the time, Sarah's problems felt distant and manageable by someone else. He was building his future, and he couldn't let hometown drama distract him from opportunities that would define his entire life. Now, reading her careful explanations of her changing circumstances, he sees what he missed then. Sarah never asked him for help. She never complained or made demands. She simply kept him informed about her life because she thought he cared, because she believed their friendship mattered enough to maintain despite the distance. The last letter is dated 3 years into his college career. It's shorter than the others, more formal. Sarah writes about her mother's death, about her decision to stay in their hometown, about her understanding that his life has moved in different directions. "I want you to know that I'm proud of everything you've accomplished. I always knew you were destined for great things. I hope you find happiness in whatever comes next, and I hope you remember our friendship as fondly as I will. It's signed simply, Love always, Sarah, with no expectation of response, no plea for continued contact. She had released him from obligation while still affirming the value of what they'd shared. Michael never wrote back. His phone buzzes with another call from his assistant. The Tokyo deal requires his signature by midnight Eastern Time. The London meeting needs to be rescheduled. The board of directors is waiting for his input on the quarterly projections. All of it feels meaningless compared to the woman serving coffee 15 minutes away. The woman who once believed he was capable of greatness and who discovered that success without loyalty is just expensive emptiness. That evening, Michael cancels his flight and extends his hotel stay. He tells his assistant it's for estate business, but the truth is more complicated. He can't leave things the way he did with Sarah, can't return to his life without understanding what redemption might look like. He drives past Miller's restaurant twice, but doesn't go inside. Sarah made her position clear. She doesn't want his help, his money, or his belated friendship. But Michael can't shake the feeling that there must be something he can do, some way to honor what they once meant to each other. The next morning, he visits his parents' lawyer and asks about their charitable foundation. His father had established it primarily for tax benefits, but his mother had been genuinely involved in local causes: scholarships for community college students, assistance for families facing medical hardships, support for small businesses struggling with economic changes. Your parents were particularly interested in helping people who fell through the cracks, he explains. People who worked hard but faced circumstances beyond their control. Michael thinks about Sarah choosing between her mother's medications and basic utilities, about losing her career when the bank closed, about starting over at 38 with nothing but her own determination. I want to expand the foundation, Michael says impulsively, significantly, and I want to focus specifically on people who've lost careers due to economic shifts. Retraining programs, bridge assistance, small business loans. The lawyer looks surprised by the scope of Michael's proposal, but begins taking notes about funding levels and administrative structure. Michael knows Sarah will never accept direct help from him, but maybe through a foundation that bears his parents' name instead of his own, he can create opportunities for people like her, people whose lives were disrupted by forces beyond their control, people who deserve second chances they might not get otherwise. It's not redemption, exactly. It won't undo 25 years of neglect or restore the friendship he destroyed through inaction, but it's something real, something that honors the girl who taught him success means nothing if you abandon the people who believed in you first. 6 months later, Michael returns to his hometown for the foundation's first annual grant ceremony. The Carter Family Foundation, named for his parents, not himself, has awarded its first round of assistance to 37 people: displaced workers, single parents returning to school, small business owners recovering from setbacks. Sarah Green is one of the recipients, though she doesn't know Michael was involved in selecting her application. The ceremony takes place in the high school auditorium where Michael delivered his valedictorian speech 25 years ago. He sits in the back, watching as Sarah walks across the stage to accept a check that will cover her tuition for a 2-year accounting program at the community college. She's wearing a simple blue dress that brings out her eyes, and when she accepts the award, her smile is genuinely radiant. Not the professional politeness she shows restaurant customers, but the real joy Michael remembers from their school days. "This opportunity means more than I can express," Sarah says into the microphone, her voice steady and clear. "It's a chance to rebuild my career, to create stability, to prove that setbacks don't define your story unless you let them." Michael feels tears he didn't expect, watching the woman who was once his closest friend embrace a future that's finally opening up for her again. After the ceremony, people gather in the hallway for refreshments and congratulations. Michael approaches slowly, uncertain of his reception. "Congratulations," he says when Sarah notices him. "You deserve this opportunity." Sarah studies his face, and Michael wonders if she suspects his involvement in the foundation's decision. "Thank you," she says carefully. "I was surprised to see your name on the foundation board.
I thought you lived in New York now. I do, Michael admits, but this seemed like something worth coming home for. They stand together awkwardly, surrounded by the chatter of other recipients and their families. Michael wants to say so much about the letters he found, about the regret he carries, about the girl she used to be and the woman she's become, but Sarah's expression remains politely neutral, keeping him at arm's length. The foundation is doing good work, Sarah says finally. Your parents would be proud. I hope so, Michael replies. They believed in second chances. They believe that good people deserve support when life gets difficult. Sarah nods, but there's something in her eyes that suggests she hears the subtext of his words. Sarah, Michael says quietly, I know I don't have the right to ask, but could we talk? Really talk? Not as strangers making small talk, but as people who once knew each other well? Sarah considers the request for a long moment. Walk with me, she says finally. They leave the crowded hallway and step outside into the spring evening. The high school parking lot looks exactly the same as it did when they were teenagers, complete with the oak tree where they used to eat lunch when the cafeteria was too noisy. I found your letters, Michael says as they walk slowly across the asphalt. All of them. I kept them in a shoebox in my old room. I figured you must have thrown them away, Sarah says quietly. I should have answered them, Michael admits. I should have come home when your mother was sick. I should have been the friend you deserved instead of the selfish kid who thought success was more important than loyalty. Sarah stops walking and turns to face him. Michael, we were 18 years old when you left for Harvard. 18-year-olds make mistakes. They prioritize their own futures because that's what they're supposed to do. But I kept making the same mistake for 25 years. I chose convenience over connection, ambition over affection. I let the best friendship I ever had die because maintaining it required effort I wasn't willing to give. Sarah looks up at the oak tree, its branches fuller now than when they were students. I was angry for a long time, not just at you, but at the unfairness of how our lives turned out so differently. You got everything we both dreamed of, while I got everything we both feared. You got something I never learned how to find. You got the ability to rebuild, to find meaning in simple things, to treat people with genuine kindness even when life has been unkind to you. Sarah smiles slightly, the first unguarded expression he's seen from her since recognizing her at the restaurant. The foundation scholarship. You had something to do with that, didn't you? Michael doesn't deny it. Your application was evaluated on its merits, just like everyone else's. But yes, I made sure the criteria included people in situations like yours. Why? Sarah asks. Because I can't undo 25 years of silence, Michael says honestly. But I can try to create opportunities for people who deserve better than they've gotten. People like you. People who work hard and maintain their dignity even when circumstances try to break them down. They walk in comfortable silence for a few minutes, processing the weight of honesty between them. We can't be 18 again, Sarah says finally. We can't pretend those years didn't happen or that the people we've become aren't shaped by the choices we made. I know, Michael replies, but maybe we can be friends again. Different friends than we were, but friends nonetheless. Sarah considers this carefully. I'd like that, she says quietly. But it would have to be real friendship, Michael. Not charity, not guilt, not you trying to fix my life because yours turned out better. Just friendship, Michael agrees. Two people who knew each other once and are getting to know each other again. Sarah extends her hand, and Michael shakes it solemnly, understanding that this is their real beginning, not a continuation of what they were, but the start of something new, built on who they've become. Friends, Sarah says. Friends, Michael repeats, and for the first time in 25 years, the word feels like a promise he might actually be able to keep.